Okay, so here we are with the Royal LePAGE Performance team again, and this is lecture number 2, and we're talking about James and his challenge to me, which was, do I add to my portfolio of 21 doors, or do I animate the existing portfolio I have before I go ahead? And the conclusion that we came to yesterday on Zoom was that a focus on animating the existing properties would probably make more sense. James surprised me just a moment ago before I started recording by telling me that he could get $100 a month from his tenants for a storage shed in his backyard, in the backyard of his investment properties. I'm only getting $85. So we were about to figure out the cap rate. So if you buy a shed for $3,000 from the Amish with the metal roof, and it's a wood frame structure that'll last 40 years, it'll cost about $3,000 to buy it. That's what I've been paying. We'll put a divider in the middle, pull the sod back, put down gravel, put down patio stones, and raise it. So we're in for about $3,600 bucks, but we get $85 a side, so we get about $170 a month. Now, how do we figure out the cap rate? Now, James, you're an expert at that. Tell us how to do it.
Sorry, well, I guess like you said yesterday, the cap rate, we would just find out you took off 34%. I believe that was for property taxes, stuff like that. Okay.
So, yeah, so what we did yesterday, you got your calculator ready, right, James?
Yeah.
So we get $170 a month from 2 tenants for the backyard storage sheds, times 12. What do you get?
Yeah. So we had 2040 for the 12 months.
Right. So you get just over $2,000 of gross operating income from your shed. And I subtract, it's just a rule of thumb, 34% of gross operating income, and that goes out the window because you've got to pay property taxes, insurance, repairs, maintenance, vacancy allowance. Nothing to do with a mortgage, right, guys? It's just operating costs. You know, maybe I have a property manager. Her name is Dawn, and she's my wife, and I pay her. You know, all of those costs, but nothing to do with financing. So we'll assume that you paid $3,000 for your storage shed in cash, and then you paid another $600 to prep this thing, and then you plunked it on in the backyard. We don't even apply for building permits for these things. They're so small, and nobody's ever complained, even though we might be over the minimum size. We've never applied for a building permit. So we've got $2,040 a year from our $3,600 investment. And if we subtract 34%, what's our net operating income, James?
We were left with 1346.
So that means your net operating income is 1346, which is now very easy to calculate your cap rate. You take 1,346 net operating income dollars and divide it by the cost of putting this thing in, which was 3,600. So what do you get as your cap rate?
37.5 is what we got.
So does anybody have a townhouse in Toronto that's making 37.5% cap rate? Put up your hand. Anybody in Cornwall have a townhouse or a fourplex that makes 37.5%? I doubt it. You know, I do have clients who buy townhouses in Toronto. They're paying for a 4-bedroom townhouse in Toronto between $1.4 and $1.7 million. And you know, if you rented that up, maybe you get $4,000 or $5,000 a month, but your cap rate is pretty low. James, let's see if we can calculate that. A client of mine actually bought, I mean, these are rich dudes, bought a townhouse in Toronto, quite nice, 4 bedrooms, in the beaches for $1.715 million. And they rented out, I think, for $5,000 a month. So your gross income is $60,000 bucks. Now multiply 60,000 by 0.66, because you know you're getting rid of 34%. What do you get, James?
39.6.
And divide that by 1.715 million.
Jesus, God. 3.3%.
Yeah, so typically if you buy a townhouse or a property in a city like Toronto, Los Angeles, cap rates are really, really bad. And what I would say to you, and what I say to all of the clients, whether they're realtors advising clients or they're realtors like you guys and like me buying stuff for yourself, Don't buy any property these days with a cap rate less than 6%. Okay, your going in cap rate should be 6%. And then after you animate it, you know, after you discover all these brilliant animations, you know, hopefully it'll be 7 or 8%. Okay, and if you think about it, the storage shed at 37.5% that James just figured out will start to push your cap rates up. So what James concluded yesterday is that by adding maybe a backyard storage shed or a backyard workshop, which maybe a tenant might use, he could get you know, 15% cap rate, a 20% cap rate, a 30% cap rate, maybe even higher than that, and that pushes the overall cap rate up. And that's what he's doing. Then a year from now, the portfolio is performing better. You know, James is driving his Rolls Royce, and he then goes to have it reappraised. Now, the big battle that you're going to face, James, when you go to reappraise it and then refinance it, pull money out tax-free and repeat, the big battle that you're going to have is with your appraiser. You're aware of that, right?
Well, not really, no.
Well, you are now.
Okay.
And so what I mean by that is appraisers, even though you pay them in commercial appraisals, you pay them. And, you know, if you're just doing a mortgage for your principal residence, often, you know, the bank or the lender might pay for it. But it's certainly when you own 21 doors, in my opinion, you're going to end up paying the appraiser. And the appraiser is the gatekeeper to the promised land. But even though you might be paying them, James, their loyalty is to the banker, to the lender, not to you. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
And the reason for that is they might do one appraisal for you every few years, but they might do 30 appraisals or 60 appraisals for the lender. So they want to stay on the good side of the lender, which means for many lenders and many banks, appraisers tend to undervalue property. And I'll be honest with you guys, and not just because you're all realtors like me, but I'll be honest with you guys, I think realtors do a better job as a general rule doing CMAs, comparative market analyses, than appraisers do. Because appraisers want to, James, do you understand why they want to come in a little bit low?
Well, yeah, actually I had a good conversation with one of the local appraisers. Basically, if that goes into a bank repo and sells lower, then the appraiser's the one getting fined for it.
Exactly. He or she will certainly get blamed for it. So how do you, when you want to refinance, so now all of a sudden your revenues are way up and your profitability is way up, and you think, well, these buildings are worth more, you know, in St. Andrew or Cornwall or wherever else you may own property. And then the appraiser comes in and kills your dream of refinancing and taking out a few $100,000 so you could buy more real estate. So how do you combat that, James? Do you know?
For that? No, I'm not too sure.
Well, you don't beat them up. Okay, that we don't do. But what I do and what I get all of my clients to do is I turn to realtors like you guys and I ask them to do PAAN reports. That's what we're going to talk about today, PAAN reports. You can't look it up on the internet because it's a term I made up. And I'm going to take you through this. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys. And let's look, whoops, let's get the right slide deck going here. There we are. So what we're going to talk about is PAAN reports. PAAN is just my word for property, animation, and analysis reports. PAAN reports. And you guys will all get copies of the, we're recording this, right? So you guys will all get copies of this video if you should ever want to see it again. Right? You might be sick of me after a few lectures, but you will at least have it. So these go on YouTube unlisted, and I think everybody got the first one. You'll get the second one too. So if there is something that you want to refer to, you can go back. But one thing I've asked everybody to do, James, I asked you this yesterday, and again this morning, please don't post these publicly. These are just for us to use and learn from, hopefully. All right. So I do PAAN reports, and I provide clients a PAAN service. I actually call it a PAAN service. And for commercial, I charge $1,500 plus HST. And for residential, I don't charge very much, about $500. And lots of people are doing it. I do about 40 to 50 of these a year, and I add about $40,000 to my income because most of them are commercial. I do a few residential. So you can charge clients for these reports, in my opinion. And as I said to you, I think in at least one email, I really believe that PAAN reports will become an industry standard at some point, probably long after I die and I'm playing my harp up in heaven. But I really do think PAAN reports will become almost as important, or maybe even more important, than building inspections. Why do I think that? A building inspection is important, but often, as you guys know, building inspectors don't have Superman's X-ray vision. They can't see what's going on with the foundation. They can't see what's going on behind the walls, right? I mean, they can't know everything. So they do their best and they give you a report, and you have to assess, you and your clients have to assess whether the report is satisfactory or whether you need a price abatement. Or maybe you're going to back out of the deal entirely if the building inspection is terrible. But a PAAN report really helps your clients and yourself. So James, when you're buying your next property, I do them for myself. Now, I don't pay myself. That wouldn't make any sense, but I do them for myself. And I'm going to show you, if we have time today, one that I did for myself, because I bought another investment property on Saturday, and I'll show you that if we have time. So I charge for them. Sometimes people will call me up and say, can you do one for free, but I'll give you a listing? I go, no. I just don't do it for free. And this is just my opinion. You guys, I'm just here as a coach. You have to make up your own minds about what you want to do. But I think when realtors do CMAs, comparative market analyses, or certainly PAAN reports, I think they should charge for it. And even for CMAs, I will charge for those as well. That's just my idea. So this is my PAAN cover that I had prepared by a professional artist. I'm not good enough to do anything like this. PAAN reports are property animation analysis and report, how to boost your property returns and values. And you should do it for yourself, and you should do it for all your clients. And if you do maybe the first few you do for free just to get the experience. I accept that. But when you get good at it, which I am hoping all of you will, because you're my disciples now, not very many, but it doesn't matter to me whether I have 3 disciples or I have 10, but I have about 2,500 people I put through my coaching practice since I've been doing it, and they all do these PAAN reports. Some of them are just investors. They do it for themselves, right? I teach them how to do it so they don't have to pay me to do it. All right, but before we get into the PAAN reports, I had, Stefan, I still have your permission Steph, to show this? Steph, unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So Steph did assignment number 1, and I really liked it, and I got his permission. I just reconfirmed it now that I can show it on this to the team here. I asked you guys. Now, not all of you have done it. So those of you who haven't done it, please. Doesn't take that long, and it really helps me know a little bit more about you. So here's Steph's 140 character CV. Steph's an entrepreneur, a dedicated realtor, a passionate team leader, an avid learner, a real estate investor in his own right, and a devoted family man. What you see in green there is something I highlighted. Steph didn't do that, I did. Dedicated. To me, that means Steph puts his clients first. And if there's nothing else I can teach you this, and I'm sure you all know it anyway. If you always put your clients first, you will always have clients. And I really like that in Steph's CV. He's an avid learner. And I wanted to ask you guys, do you know the difference between an old person and a young person? It's not how many times you've been around the sun. An old person is somebody who knows everything. You can't teach me anything, I know everything. I learn almost as much from the people I coach as they do from me. So I know old 30-year-olds who say, hey, I'm good, I know everything, which of course is impossible. And I know young 70-year-olds who are learning new things. So I really like that. And I respect Steph putting here, he's a devoted family man, and I share that with Steph. So let's go to the next one. So that was assignment number 1. Assignment number 2, what is your brand and tagline? So this is the Gorley Lalonde team, and I love their logo. Steph, what a great logo that is. It looks like Ottawa, but it also looks like a key. But they've never had a tagline. And so Steph wrote to me, our team could never agree on a tagline. However, my favorite contender was unlocking your real estate dreams, or the key to your real estate success. And I really liked something involving key because, I mean, to me, that image of I guess, the Parliament buildings in downtown Ottawa as a key is a very strong image. So I think the tagline should involve that. So I suggested this. The Gorley Lalonde in perfect key. Okay. And I'm not saying that you should use it, Steph, but I wanted you at least to consider it with your group and your team. And I'll tell you why. Taglines should be short. They should be memorable. They should be relevant. They could be a bit funny. And sometimes they can have more than one meaning. My tagline, my brand is Prof Bruce, as I said in the last lecture, and my tagline is making impossible possible. That's kind of what I do. You know, when I brought back the Ottawa Senators 30 plus years ago, everybody said, it can't be done. Ottawa, you know, Ottawa is a place where nothing ever happens. I said, yeah, we'll see. And they did. I brought the team back and I built the arena, and it's still going, even though we are in last place or close to last place in the NHL, we're still going strong. So making impossible possible is my tagline. It's not really funny. It doesn't really have multiple meanings, but I really like the idea that Steph shared with me of key, and to sing in perfect key, to be in harmony with your clients, to be in harmony with you know, the world, and nature and everything. I just thought that was a beautiful thought. Steph, any comments?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, taglines, we gave up after a few months. We read a whole bunch of, you know, opinions on what a tagline should be. And Charles and I arm wrestled a few times and we broke even. We decided to forego it and sell real estate, but we'll revisit it now for sure.
I think
and I like your recommendation. It's cute. I mean, it's funny. I just don't know.
Hey, listen,
Yeah,
what you should
I don't
do,
know.
Steph, I'm just here as a friend and as a coach. And
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
And I really believe taglines are important. If I mention just do it, whose tagline is that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's Nike.
Right. Think different.
You know what? You stumped me.
Apple.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. So I mean, taglines are important, and GorleyLalonde.com doesn't say much, but a tagline, I mean, it says go to my website, but it doesn't say much else. But anyway, I wanted to encourage you, so I did. Assignment number 3 was find your why. And this was Steph's why. Why do you do what you do? What he does, he's a real estate agent. How I do it, we are committed to providing a world-class customer service experience by applying our time, knowledge, and negotiating skills to help maximize our clients' profits and satisfaction. And I like the idea of maximizing clients' profits because that's what PAAN reports are meant to help with. We truly believe that every real estate transaction should be a positive, profitable, enjoyable experience. We want each of our clients to feel compelled to share their experience with their friends, family, and coworkers and become clients for life. That's my highlight again, clients for life. That's what I believe. You know, I was working for another brokerage 2 brokerages ago where the broker of record was really, really difficult to work with. I won't mention why, but it was not a good environment for me or for, I think, many of my coworkers. And so I left. And when I was leaving, he said, you know, I only had 50 clients back then. That's about probably 12 years ago now. And he said, you know, those clients belong to the brokerage. I said, I won't take any of them, but I am leaving today. I didn't give 2 weeks notice. This was a very difficult environment. I don't like working for people who are liars. And I just won't. So I left and I didn't solicit the clients, but out of the 50 clients that I had at the time, 49 of them came to the new brokerage and followed me there. And the one that didn't, 2 years later, he found out what an SOB that broker of record was, and he came as well. So I got all 50 of them. So there you go. So clients for life. If you do, you put your clients first, then you will have clients for life. And then, of course, I can't argue with this last statement here. I believe owning real estate is the best way to build personal wealth and security. And I completely agree with that. And I think everybody on this call does as well. So there you go. Thank you for that, Steph. For those of you who haven't done it yet, can you please try it? All right. So let's talk about PAAN reports, property animation and analysis reports. If your clients or yourself, you're buying duplexes, triplexes, multi-res, commercial property, animation ideas apply. And we're doing things like we talked about with James a minute ago, adding, you know, a backyard storage shed or a backyard workshop. Some of the other stuff that I've been talking about widely now for 7 or 8 years is adding tech or multimedia packages to your properties, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. Backyard mini offices, basement apartments, side yard apartments, etc. I'm mainly focused here on what animations you can apply to residential, but we do it for commercial property too, whether it's plazas or office buildings or even institutional buildings. So those are some of the animation ideas that we have. And if you look at the right side of my screen here, you guys, basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to raise cap rates for our clients and for ourselves to 6% or more. All right. And if you do that for your clients, first of all, they will be grateful to you that their properties are cash flowing. I will not buy, personally, I will not buy, and certainly I will not coach or advise or act as a realtor for somebody who will buy a property with a cap rate of 3%, say, like we calculated a few minutes ago for a townhouse in Toronto. I have 2 clients in Long Beach, California, 2 young fellows who, when they came to me for some coaching, they were buying properties at 1.68% cap rates. You could pretty much get that from your bank. I thought that was terrible. So the idea of a PAAN report is to, you know, try and help people be more successful. And by the way, if they're more successful, guess what? They'll buy more property and they'll come back to you. And, you know, like I don't know if I mentioned in lecture 1, but we have one rich dentist who was one of my first coaching clients who loves real estate. He bought 307 townhouses in Ottawa, Toronto, and Vancouver with us. So you can imagine we were pretty busy just with one client. So if you make your clients more successful, you as a realtor are likely to be more successful too. Then I mentioned some of the storage sheds. We buy these Amish style storage sheds, as I mentioned, because we divide them in the middle. You can see they've got doors here and on the other end, so we can rent them to 2 people. And we don't make quite as much as you were suggesting, James, but you know, the cap rates on this are probably north of 30%. We also do a lot with backyard workshops that look like this. And I have one of my residential triplexes has a workshop very similar to this in the backyard, where one of my tenants, she's a yoga instructor. She runs now her own yoga studio of something very similar to this. And she went from making $37,000 a year as a yoga instructor to making over $100,000 a year in her own backyard. So there you go. And one of the things I said to James yesterday is that if you think about it, the apartment is a liability because she has to pay money. Her name is Maya, has to pay money to live there with her 3 kids. The workshop in the backyard is an asset because she uses that to make money. And when you go from $37,000 a year to over $107,000 a year in gross income, that is a significant change in your well-being. So she's in a better position not only to take care of herself, but her kids as well. So these 2 young fellows were buying properties in Long Beach, California, near the port. So Long Beach is one of the biggest ports, if not the biggest port on the west coast of the United States. And what happened was these guys were buying, you know, properties there with 1 or 2% cap rates, really, really terrible. And I said, you're not going to buy any more properties unless they can achieve the minimum of 6%. And they thought, well, Bruce, you're in Ottawa, Canada, you know, we're in California, it's impossible, it can't be done. I said, I bet you we could do it. And in fact, we did do it. What they did was they bought 2 I'm going to stop sharing just for a minute so I can see everybody again. So they bought 2 side-by-side buildings. These were high ranch bungalows. They were on the main street on a corner with an alley. And they were 4 blocks from the port. And so they have a lower level apartment and an upper level apartment. So they duplexed the 2 units. They were both next to each other. But these lots are very deep and they had access on the alley. So they applied to the city of Long Beach for permission to build 2 fair-sized workshops in their backyard. And they were able to rent an apartment and a workshop to people who are servicing the port. And to be 4 blocks away from this port, if you're a mechanic, for example, you are going to supply 24/7, 365-day-a-year service to the port, whatever kind of mechanical and hydraulic stuff that they need. Because if any of their big offloading equipment goes down, they can lose tens of millions of dollars a day. So it has been remarkable. Now, they didn't get to 6% cap rate on it, but they did get to 5.5%. So they're close. Certainly better than the 1 or 2% they were getting. So that's my Long Beach story. So you'll all get a copy of this. So again, you're going to get a PDF version of this, maybe even a Word copy version of it. So that this is a mock-up of what a report might look like. And this is one that I did, I guess a few years ago, 2018, for a man, you can see here, his name was Frank Tellerman. That's not his real name. I anonymized these reports. So he had a triplex in Gatineau, Quebec, and it wasn't doing very well, and he asked for help with it through a PAAN report. A PAAN report starts really with the idea of HABU, H-A-B-U. What is the highest and best use for a property? The highest and best use concept is a planning concept, and it goes back a long, long way. It's used in cities and towns throughout the world now as to put each property to its highest and best use. And I sort of have co-opted that to include animation. So here's his triplex. It's not far from, I guess this might be the Ottawa River, it could be the Gatineau River, I don't remember. And I wasn't sure what we could do to animate this triplex. And I went through it with Frank, and we talked about it. We met some of the tenants, and we talked about it here and there. And finally, when we went around the back, guess what we found? Right. We found an existing detached garage, which was also, you can see that it's heated. By the way, these workshops don't have air conditioning. They do have heat, they do have power. We do supply internet to them, but we don't air condition. If somebody's doing industrial work, needs air conditioning, they buy themselves a fan and open the door. So no air conditioning. So I said to Frank, I said, this is a gold mine. You can certainly rent this out and improve your cap rates. So when we looked at his gross operating income and then his expenses, you can imagine from a triplex, he's got $20,000 of gross income, which is terrible. He ended up with $11,000 of expenses, meant his net operating income was under $9,000. And James, look at this. That's not 34% of gross. That's like more than 50%. That is absolutely terrible. So his cap rate was 2.5%, which is really horrible. But when I talked to him a little bit more about it, he had forgotten all kinds of expenses. Like he had forgotten that, oh yeah, I pay property taxes. Oh yeah, I pay school taxes. That's a little bit different in Gatineau. So his actual expenses were $16,895 with a gross income of $20,000. His net operating income. James, what do you think of this? You gonna unmute yourself, brother?
Yeah, you can hear me now?
Yeah, perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, you're losing money every month, right?
Yeah, and as somebody, as I told you yesterday, somebody who owned an NHL team, it gets very old, very fast, writing big checks every month. So, James, if you ever came back to your coach here and said, hey, I got this great triplex I can buy in Gatineau, and you have a 0.94% cap rate, what do you think I'm gonna say?
Shred the paperwork, I don't know.
Attaboy, shred the paperwork. All right, so what we did was we spent quite a bit of time on this. This was not easy to do because it was really, in terms of where it's at, its gross income was, I mean, I think it was worse than Long Beach, California, which that's inexcusable in a small town like that. No. So what I suggested to him is that he put some storage sheds in. and some other things as well. So he did this, and I think I have somewhere else some other things. So he put some storage sheds in the backyard. He did rent out the workshop. And there's something else I wanted to tell you guys that we do that's an animation that you guys aren't really going to think it's an animation because it's not a direct increase in your property values. But on all the properties that I own, and certainly for all of my coaching clients, and like I said, I've got 2,500 of them in Canada, the United States, I strongly encourage them to add something I call a playland. And people say, well, why would you do that? What's with the landlord providing games? You know, you can see up here, Terrace is the original parent company of the Ottawa Senators. So I've got these cornhole games, you know, beanbag toss games. It's a big National Football League tailgating party. So I put branded games in the backyards of some of my apartments. But I even use this kind of thing. I've got industrial buildings. I even put this kind of thing in industrial buildings, because even people who, you know, the labor, blue collar laborers, they like to have fun too. It's not just for you and me. And lately I've been doing this. I'm going to play this little YouTube video for you. This is a mini ping pong table, and you guys are going to think I'm crazy. I have been putting these into my apartments and into the micro suites and other places, and I'll show you what they look like.
Enjoy the action-packed fun of a table tennis table without compromising space in your home with the Stiga Space Saver table. With a scaled-down size of about 6 feet long by 3 feet wide, this table delivers authentic play at regulation height, perfect for apartments, small office spaces, or any tight space needing an added dose of fun.
So do you hear what he said? Offices, homes, industrial buildings, and just in case you don't think it's for real, I think I have enough. Yes, this is me playing a mini ping pong table in our living room. You can imagine what my wife thinks of me. So this is me playing with my youngest son here, just after Christmas. Are we recording?
For 2 seconds. So you won't be able to see me much, but
That's okay. So everybody, this is Matt and Bruce. We're playing mini ping pong. It's like a teensy little table, could fit in any apartment, micro suite, any house. And when I bought it, it was on the principle that families that play together stay together. Okay, Matt, serve it up, buddy. Whoa. And believe it or not, you can actually play. Oh, I'm not doing much here. Trying it. Ready? We get around there. Boy. Whoa. Okay. So you see, you can actually play. It's a little lower. Matt says it's lower because you can hit down and you'll get a little better, result from it. But it's also lower so kids can play. Now you can turn it off now. So believe it or not, guys, I have this concept that families that play together, couples that play together, stay together, but also tenants that play together stay longer. And why is that important? That mini ping pong table there, my Secret Santa bought it for me, but I had to pay for it. And it was $225. Comes with a little handle, it folds up. You can take it outside, you can take it to the beach with you. You can do pretty much whatever you want. And just to try it out, my wife and I, we created a new micro suite in one of our buildings. It cost us about $40,000. It's furnished, and I put one of these in there. And I had a young woman come in, and she said, "I love this. It was a little micro suite. I love it. How much is it?" I said, "It's $1,300 a month." And she saw the mini ping pong. And she said, "Can you actually play on this?" I said, "Sure." And so we negotiated her lease while we were playing. And one of the keys for you as investors, and also your clients as investors, is to reduce tenant churn. All right, I'll just stop sharing again so I can see your faces. So you guys all know that if you have, say, 352 units like we do, and you have to replace every tenant every year, that's a lot of work. You might lose 2 weeks or even a month, cleaning it up, maybe repainting it, remarketing it. So you'd lose some rent, you have some costs, your make-ready costs. And so we tend to do on our residential portfolio minimum 2-year leases. because we want to reduce the amount of work. But we also treat our tenants as if they were gold, which they are. And, you know, it has been amazing to me how many landlords think of their tenants as the enemy. I do not, and my wife, who runs the portfolio, certainly does not. We baby them, we take care of them, because if we could reduce our churn rate and extend the number of years that people stay with us, we can really, really improve our bottom line. You know, we do increase the rents, whatever the legal rent increase is every year. Yes, we do that, but we really want people to stay with us. And by providing a $225 ping pong table, you'd be surprised at the amount of positive vibes that you get from your tenants for something like that. All right, enough of that. All right, let's go to the next slide. Oop. So Frank put in a couple of, this is next to his garage, a couple of these Amish style sheds here. And the other thing that we do a lot is and it looks like it's, again, it looks like it's a cost, but if you own a triplex and you have a common public area, if you have a common public area, what you're going to find is nobody uses that. So what we do is we try and create, if we have a triplex or a fourplex or a 10plex, we try and create little areas that, okay, Kim, this is yours. Steph, this is yours. Alain, this is yours. Hussein, this is yours. You know, you could put the trike there. You could put the barbecue there, etc. But if you have a common area, almost nobody will use it except teenagers. They'll hang out there. They'll smoke weed and, you know, throw garbage down. If you have the private patio areas, they will put their own stuff there and they will use it, including their mini ping pong table or something like that. It adds tremendous value, not directly, but you will be able to get higher rents and your clients will get higher rents if you have private patios. There you go. Something else we do a lot of, here's this triplex again in Gatineau. There's virtually no on-street parking around here. So one of the animations that we do to create more parking spaces is we pave the front yard. Now, you're not actually allowed in most municipalities to pave the front yard. So we put in pavers, you know, these kinds of things. Can you see them here on the lower left? Steph, can you see it okay? Kim? So what that means is you can park like that. Right, so tenants, you have more parking spaces, you have less grass to cut, and it meets the test with most cities in towns. You can't asphalt it, but you can use pavers. So that's another animation. Anyway, after all of this, and over a period of 2 years, he was able to bring his cap rate up by doing all of this stuff from just under 1% to about 7.3%. That is a significant change for him. It's a change in his circumstances. He's providing a much better level of service for his clients and his tenants, and he's making more money, and all of that is good. It means that his value goes up. Now, I want to show you again how to you know, handle an appraiser. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing again. And I'll try again with this. So James, this is what you're going to face when you go to reappraise. When you go to reappraise your buildings, before you even hire an appraiser to do it, you have to get confirmation from your mortgage broker and your lender that that appraiser is acceptable to your lender. So that's step number one. Step number two is you do a CMA and a PAAN report for your own properties. Don't be lazy, all right? All 21 doors, you're going to value them, okay? I want to see you do this. Even if you're thinking this, do this. All right, that boy. I'm picking on you, James. So you do a CMA and a property analysis and animation report. You do it. And what we do is we give that to the appraiser even before he or she shows up at the property to do their appraisal. And the reason we do that is there's a thing in business called anchor pricing. Does anybody know what anchor pricing is? Anybody? I'll tell you what it is. It's very important to realtors to know this. Anchor pricing is where you throw out a number that's either high or low to anchor somebody's attention, either high or low. So let's say I was representing Kim here, and she wanted to buy a place for $500,000. Maybe it's a duplex, and she wants to buy it. I might say to the realtor representing the seller, well, I know you're asking 500,000, but you know, Kim's done her analysis. She thinks it's only worth 300 grand. that 300,000 is an anchor. Okay, but if Kim is a seller and I'm representing Kim as a listing agent, and James comes along, and I might say, you know, James, Kim is asking $500,000 for this building, but you know, there's 2 or 3 other buildings that have gone $100,000 over ask, 600,000 or up. That 600,000 is an anchor. So when James goes back to his buyer client, he says, you know, other houses are trading at 600,000. If you could get this at 500,000, that'd be a hell of a deal, right? So it works both ways. Everybody clear on that? Yeah. Okay. So I use anchor pricing. So I do. It's a very powerful effect. Of course, you don't tell people that, right? Hey, I'm using anchor pricing on you guys. We don't say that, right, James? But we do that to the appraisers too. So if I was reappraising Kim's duplex a year from now, I'd say to the appraiser, well, you know, there are other buildings out there that have sold $600,000 or more. And so we're expecting, you know, a really good number from you, even though maybe Kim is shooting for 550, I'm going to anchor a price at 600,000. But better than that, because we're professionals, we're professional realtors, I'm going to send the PAAN report and the CMA to the appraiser in advance. And what I say is, I'm not trying to influence your appraisal. I know you're a professional appraiser, you're going to do your own research, but I thought you should know. We've done some work on it. Here's some comparables. Here's some other numbers you should know. Because again, appraisers are not, don't have Superman X-ray vision either. And they can't possibly know all of the things that Kim has done to improve the value of the building. So Kim, when you're buying property, or your clients are buying property, you should tell them keep really good electronic files. Everything, every dollar that you spent, every repair that you've done should all be you know, kept in a digital format, so that when you're doing the CMA and the PAAN report, you have access to that. Clear as mud? All right, got to share my screen again with you guys.
Really?
So yes, who was that?
Yvan.
Oh, Yvette.
So that's why also in commercial, an appraiser always asks for a copy of the MLS and the agreement of purchase and sale.
Correct.
Doesn't
But
that kind of steer him?
Yeah, well, that's exactly why I want you to do CMAs and PAAN reports, because the PAAN reports and CMAs do and can support higher valuations than the agreement of purchase and sale and the MLS listing. The thing is, I'll give you an example. Again, I'll stop sharing. That's a good question. So give you an example. I think everybody is aware that the city of Ottawa passed a coach house bylaw in 2018. Is everybody aware of that? I think we've talked about it. And I was the author, or at least part author of that bylaw. I worked with the city on that. And as I said to you yesterday, James, the city initially wasn't going to allow coach houses in the rural area, which I thought was very unfair, because whether you're a farmer or living in the rural area, often those people need some extra income. You know, if you're a rich civil servant living in the glebe, you know, whether you get an extra $20,000 or $30,000 from your coach house in the backyard probably isn't going to make much of a difference to your life. But if you're like a farmer friend of mine who raised 9 children and never made more than $36,000 in a year, an extra $20,000 or $25,000 of income from a coach house is very significant. So when they said they weren't going to allow coach houses in the rural areas, I didn't accept that. And I persuaded them, with help from the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, to allow coach houses in the rural areas of Ottawa, provided you have 2 acres or more. So you now are allowed to have coach houses in your backyard, even in the rural area. Yes, Yvette.
The only thing I don't like about the coach house in rural, apparently we have to take the septic or the well, we have to choose one of them to accommodate the home that we're building. Eh?
So one of the things that I've done a few of them, and I'm doing a couple more, and we've had to, on one of our septic fields, we had to add, I think, 2 extra runs, and we had to add another storage tank as well. But for the well, we split it. We had enough flow that we could split it. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, So now back to the appraiser problem, James, that I think is relevant to everybody, but particularly to you and to Kim's imaginary property too, is one of my clients. He's a successful, he builds fences and decks, and he makes a lot of money. And he has a huge house south of Ottawa on a 2.5 acre property. Beautiful. And he built a coach house in his backyard. Because as soon as I got the coach house bylaw approved, it was just me and a bunch of other people. It wasn't just me, for sure. But me and a bunch of other people got the coach. I told Alex about it. He was super excited. And he said, I got to build one, because he's a builder. So he built a beautiful 1,600 square foot coach house in his backyard. And the maximum that he's allowed to build is 841 square feet. So he built it about twice the size of what's allowed. The way he did that was he built the coach house, and then next to it, he built his office for his, his fence and deck business. So he was able to get the building permit okay because his coach house was 840 square feet, and his office and workshop and garage was another, approximately 800 square feet. Life is good. He spent $250,000 on that, on his coach house and his new office and garage. So I said, great, now time for refinance. So we did the CMA and the PAAN report supporting evaluation. The home was worth about $850,000. I don't know what it'd be worth today, a lot more, but it was worth $850 just based on comparables. And then we looked at the way we valued the coach house is on an income basis. Okay, so there were no comparables. We couldn't go, look at all the properties around there and say, oh, look, there's a coach house there. No, it didn't work that way. So the way that you value a coach house is on its income. So let's assume that it had a net operating income, just making the numbers up, of $20,000. James, I'm coming back to you again. Get your calculator ready. And so if it has a net operating income of $20,000 and we value income on the basis of a 5% cap rate, to value that coach house, you divide 20,000 by 5%. Help me out there.
Yeah, you'd be at 400,000.
Right. So what we did was we looked at what his office and workshop would rent for, although he was using it. What would it rent for? What would the coach house rent for? We added those two together, came out to about 30,000 of gross income, a little bit more than that, and about 20,000 of net operating income, and a $400,000 valuation. So the first appraiser shows up, and right at the front door, I'm there with Alex, because I wanted to help him out a little bit. He's a young fellow, and the appraiser says, "Look, Yvan's calling me." So anyway, so what happened was the appraiser shows up, and I said, well, look, we have the house here that we need you to appraise, but I need you to appraise the coach house and the workshop as well. And you saw that in the CMA and the PAAN report that we sent you. He hadn't looked at it. And then he says to us, oh, well, wait a second. I'm not allowed, according to the bank and the lender, I'm not allowed to look at any outbuildings. I can't put any value on that whatsoever. So at that point, I turned to Alex. I said, Alex, can I talk to you for a minute? I said, we should use 2 words with this individual. We should borrow them from Mr. Trump. And those 2 words are, you're fired. So Alex agreed. We went back and we said, no, thank you. Your services are not required. We fired him on the spot. It would have cost, I think, Alex about $500 or $600 for the appraisal, and it would have been useless because it would have come back at $850. Do you understand why it's useless, James?
Yeah, well, the guy, like you said, didn't value any of the outbuildings or anything.
Yeah.
So that 400,000 would have been zero.
It would have been zero. And what Alex wanted to do was get $1.25 million, put an 80% loan to value mortgage on that, pull out a bunch of money in the hundreds of thousands and buy more real estate. So then what happened next was we reached out to another appraiser who was on the approved list. And this time, rather than just emailing him the stuff, we did a Zoom meeting with the appraiser before he even showed up on site to go over the stuff that we had done. Again, we don't want to influence you, but we just want to let you know what you're going to be seeing and to give you information, and then you make up your own mind. And he's told us that he had the same instruction that he was not allowed to value the outbuildings, but what he would do is he would privately value the outbuildings, and then he would add that value to the value of the home and give us an appraisal that way. And Alex and I looked at each other on Zoom doing this, and we got, okay. And so he did get his $1.25 million valuation. So it is a battle, and you've got to be able to do it for yourself and coach your clients to do it, because a $400,000 difference on an 80% loan to value mortgage is $320,000 that he could have pulled out and he wanted to pull out. And you remember, he's a builder. It didn't cost him $400,000 to build that thing. It cost him about 200 grand. So if he can pull out 320,000 of that tax-free money, he's got an extra $120,000 to spend. All right. All right. So you guys are now experts at this. All right. All right. That's enough of that. Let's see if we can go. This photograph here is, I don't know what kind of a car is that. Is that like a Ferrari or something? Anybody know? Anyway.
Yes, it's Ferrari.
Thank you. So there's, you have a Ferrari, and it probably costs, I don't know, $500,000. The reason I put that up there is this. And when you're talking to your clients and they have a $500,000 duplex, I'm going to tell you something, that a lot of landlords spend way more time cleaning their Ferraris, you know, polishing their Ferraris and taking care of their dogs than they do taking care of their $500,000 duplex. That is mixed up priorities. And, you know, I can't tell you, and I can't stress enough how important it is that your clients and yourself should in fact have no deferred maintenance on your buildings and not allow anything to go wrong with it. You wouldn't allow that to happen to your Ferrari. You wouldn't allow that to happen to your dog. Why would you treat your Ferrari and your dog better than the same equivalent value you have in a duplex that you're hoping will provide your retirement? So when people come to you and say, hey, you know, I want to buy investment property, but I don't want to do any work, you should stop them right there and say, you know what, maybe this isn't for you, because there's no such thing as hassle-free, work-free anything, in my opinion. How many of you have had these calls? Hey, Bruce, I hear you know something about real estate. Yeah, a little bit. Well, listen, I want to buy a 100-unit apartment building that makes $100 a door every month. And it's got to have great tenants and great property management, because I don't want to do any work, right? And I want to make $10,000 a month free and clear. And oh, by the way, it has to be a no money down deal, right? I'm sure you've all had those calls. I get them. And then what I say to those people is, did you just do a rich dad, poor dad course? Oh, how did you know? Because I get a lot of these calls. And I said, if I found an apartment building, a multi-res, 100-unit apartment building that made $10,000 a month after paying for everything, had great tenants and great property management, and I didn't have to do any work, and it was a no money down deal, why would I call you? Oh, you mean you wouldn't call me? I said, no, I wouldn't. So there you go. So when people come to you, you have to remember the Ferrari story and teach people to pay as much attention, at least to their properties, as they do to their dogs. All right, enough of that. Let's see what I can go. All right, so this is the legal definition of highest and best use, okay? Or this is the common use. It has to be legally permissible, so it has to meet zoning and safety codes and occupancy codes. It has to be physically possible. I mean, you can't build an upside down house with no gravity. And it has to be financially feasible. Now, the one thing that I would do is I would change the word maximum here. And I think, Steph, this was in your material too. I would change the word maximum to optimal. There's a difference. I'm not trying to maximize. And James, I don't want you to try and maximize your return. I want you to optimize it. But the difference is that maybe you could get an extra $1,000 of profit from a building by spending $50,000. That makes no sense. Or maybe you could get an extra $1,000 by spending $3,000. That makes sense. So it's not maximization, and I would take that word out of your description, Steph, and I would use optimization. And I tell my clients all this, I want to make the maximum amount of dollars. No, no, you don't. You want to make the optimal amount of dollars. Now, I'm an engineer, not an architect, so this is the best I can do in terms of a drawing. But this was a drawing I did. This is a road here. You can see my cursor moving back. Here's a house. And this is these are some of the animation ideas I've been working on, very simple stuff. So you drive in here, there's your driveway, and then there's your pavers again, so you can have a car. That triangle represents a car. You can have a car parked in front of the house legally, as long as it's not asphalt. In the back, we want to have patio space or deck space that is individual for individual tenants, right? Not collective, but individual if we can. This little area here is a playland, a games area. This is a workshop here. This is a coach house here with its own deck, and here are 3 storage sheds. That's typically what I would do with a single family house, you know, in Ottawa or Cornwall or Montreal or in Gatineau, etc. And this is one of my properties I wanted to show you. This is in Ottawa, and this is what it looked like when we bought it. And it was a house here and has a side yard apartment. Now, the realtor who sold it to us said, oh, yeah, the side yard apartment. Oh, that's legal. Yeah, legal schmeagle. And so when we went to the city of Ottawa to check, they had no record of the building permit. There was never a building permit issued for it, for the 1-bedroom side yard apartment. But we asked the city of Ottawa, and they did, for I think for $100, to print out the original floor plans for this, which go back to 1954. They have them on microfiche. I don't know if you guys know what microfiche is, but it's an old form of storing information. So we had the plans. And so what we did was we legalized the apartment. We had to add more fire separation. We had to add some inline stuff because of the inline fire damper, because it was one furnace serving both units. And so we legalized the apartment. And one of the things, I'll go back here, this is what it looked like before, this is what it looks like now. You'll notice here on the garage, we put in an insulated garage door. Can you see that okay? Charles, can you see it okay? Just give me a nod, thank you. And this is a special order door from Lachine, Quebec. It's insulated, it's R12, which is really good. And I don't know, if, Charles, if you can see it, but it has a man door or a person door in it. Can you see that? Right there. So we put that in there so that our garage could be a workshop, could be an office, or who knows what else. Because once you have a garage door that acts as an insulated garage door, you've made that garage usable space. And having a man door or person door there makes it really useful. And by the way, the garage door still works, right? So you can still go up like this and down like that, but you don't have to raise the door up and down to go in. You can go in through this man door. You can see here, for a few years, it was used as an office. And then over here, so this is another angle. And you notice how remember I told you guys how, you know, I put pavers in the front yard. I don't really like cutting grass on our rental properties or even on my principal residence. And so we put pavers in here, but it also means that we have some additional parking here. This is the path that goes to the side yard apartment, and over here is the side yard apartment. It's a little 1-bedroom side yard apartment. This is my spouse, Dawn McMillan, and she's our property manager. She's also our, you know, she supervises our project, all of our projects. She does all of that. So all I do is pay for it. And what Dawn does is she's both project manager and property manager, and she has a team that works with her. She's really good at it. So now I want to show you what we did last year, or maybe it was 2 years ago now, on the inside of that garage door. So when that other tenant moved out, he was using it as an office. We created a third micro suite or mini suite that I'll show you. So here's that person door here that opens, and there's the insulated garage door. You can see there's the track there. And we put in a 14,000 BTU natural gas heater here. You've got a full kitchen here. This is in the garage. And if you look at the floor here, it's an epoxy resin floor with a bit of a bubble surface to it, so that if it gets a little bit wet, it's not slippery, so people don't slip and fall. This is just another view. We don't put in, you know, these are tiny apartments. We don't put in dining rooms. We just put in like lunch counters here. So there's the lunch counter. It's not a big kitchen, but it's fully functional. It is still part of the main house, so it is a legal addition to the main house. So it is still part of the main house, although we have a tenant upstairs and this suite is rented separately. It is entirely furnished, so my wife not only built out this micro suite, she furnished it as well. So there's the bedroom, and every one of our apartments, everyone without exception, has a tech package, and I'll talk more about that later. But the moment our tenants move in, everything works. Internet, Wi-Fi, they've got Crave TV, they've got HBO, they've got Netflix, they've got Amazon Music, they've got everything they could ever want. We try and put a washer and dryer in every unit, and of course, there's the bathroom as well. And initially, this was a unit, it was a $40,000 micro suite, including furniture. And we called it the Hideaway, and it was an Airbnb, but for longer term stays. And what it turned out, our #1 customer for this particular micro suite was expectant moms who were having difficult pregnancies and had to be close to the hospital, because this is close to the hospital. And they would stay with us for 2 or 3 months. Then what happened was last year, yes, Yvonne.
So this is not a secondary dwelling anymore, right? With the city of Ottawa?
So what we have is going back here, what we have is we have a single family house with a legal apartment in it, and this micro suite is part of the main house, but it is rented separately.
So you're allowed to create 3 different kind of units in the home, or?
So legally, we're allowed to create 2, and because it's still connected to the main home, it's considered an in-law suite, right? So we have a 3-bedroom house here.
Okay.
We have an in-law suite down here, and we have a 1-bedroom apartment here, and we've had no problems at all in getting building permits.
Okay.
But you could, if you separated this unit down here, the little micro suite that I've been showing you from the main house, if it was legally separated, I don't think you get a building permit for it.
Okay.
Because it's an R1 zone. In an R1 zone, you are allowed, but by the way, in an R1 zone, you are allowed to have the house and a separate unit, secondary dwelling unit, thank you, and a coach house. You can have both. So our intention is, we've got a nice backyard here, is when we can afford it, we're going to put a coach house in the backyard. So we're going to end up with 4 units on this property.
Okay.
R1 zone. Yes, sir.
Sorry, I'm looking at different screens. Question for you, Bruce. The in-law.
Yeah.
I know what an in-law is, but legally with the city, the apartment is a separate dwelling. So
Correct.
the in-law has a common access from the main house,
Correct.
plus a separate access.
Correct,
And
exactly.
I guess somebody controls a key to that door.
So now, okay, so this is not for publication, okay, everybody? Yvonne, I've got your word, eh? We're not gonna, call up the bylaw officer after this call is over, right?
No, but I read that.
So I just wanted a commitment from everybody. You're not going to dime me out to the city of Ottawa. So when you add the in-law suite the way we did, it's perfectly legal to do it. The door between the upstairs, the main house, and this micro suite, that is just an ordinary door, right? It's got it's a solid core door so that the sound attenuates, but it's just an ordinary door. But somehow, Charles, after occupancy permit was granted, that lock set, that ordinary door set got replaced by a lock set that locks on both sides. Charles, you have to unmute yourself.
Sorry, so during the inspection process, it's a common door, and then a lock appears overnight.
Somehow that happened afterwards. I don't know who did it.
They're related to the tooth fairy, I guess. No worries.
Tooth fairy, blame the tooth fairy. Yvonne, what were you going to say?
Just I'm reading a lot on Coach House, because I was trying to maybe do one at my house. I'm not sure yet, but you cannot have a secondary dwelling in your home and have a coach house.
No, that is not correct. The province of Ontario passed a new bill in 2019. So when we wrote the coach house bylaw, I said to the city of Ottawa, we should allow people to have a home with an apartment in it and a coach house, and they did not agree with me. I said, okay, if you don't agree with me, here's what's going to happen. Clients of mine, I guarantee it, are going to build a coach house and get an occupancy permit. Thank you very much. And then they're going to build an illegal apartment in their house. So I say, you've just created an incentive to create an illegal apartment. They'll do it in that order. And they said, well, we'll review it in 2 years. So I said, yeah, 2 years. It's the city. They're always saying we'll do it in 2 years, but 2 years could be 20. And when you're 69 like me, 20 years is too long. So what I did was I turned my attention to the province, the new government, Mr. Ford's government, and we, not just me, but a number of people lobbied the Ford government. They introduced a new bill in 2019 that legalized both coach houses and in-home apartments in R1 zones. So that is the provincial law, and every city, town, township, county in Ontario must comply, must take their zoning codes and comply, because provincial law supersedes anything from the municipal level or the township or the county level.
Okay, well, thank you. I just learned something. Good.
So, Yvan, I have the bill. I actually have the bill on my computer. If you email me, I'll send it to you, and I'll send it to everybody, because I can tell you when I've been doing this, because I've got properties where I've been building these coach houses where I already have. I go to the counter to get a building permit. Actually, my wife does that, and they all say, "Oh, no, you can't do that." So she has with her bill. I don't remember. I think it's Bill 117 or something like that. I'll find it. She brings it with her because these idiots don't even know their own bylaws properly. So I'm telling you, if you go to the counter, they're going to say, "Oh, no, Firestone doesn't know what he's talking about." But I'll give you the friggin' bill that was passed to the legislature. And it pisses me off. I'm sorry to say that, but it pisses me off that these are the people we count on to know the building code and to know their zoning codes, and they don't know them. So unfortunately, we have to. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. There you go. So let's keep going. Share again.
Bruce, I just had one question.
Yes, Alan.
I was because I was under the same impression as Yvan with the whole secondary dwelling or the coach house. So if there is a bill that, like you're saying, in 2019, I just looked it up on the City of Ottawa website, and they're saying it's either or, not both. So maybe their bill just, they're not updating their website. That's, maybe
that
leaving
is
the
correct.
public in error.
So when Yvan sends me an email asking for the copy, I have it on my computer. I'm not going to look for it now because it could take 10 minutes. I've got a couple million files, so I have to search. But I will send it to everybody, and you guys can read it for yourself. It's clear as day. And the reason that Mr. Ford did it, and I'm not a political person, when I quoted Mr. Trump, that's not me saying anything about politics. I never, two things I never talk to people about is politics and religion, right? So I'm not making a political statement here, but Mr. Ford said, look, we need more affordable housing. And coach, the beautiful thing about a coach house, and I've got some plans for coach houses that'll blow your minds, you guys. If you're ever going to build one, come back to me. I've got plans. I'll share them with you. It will blow your mind. But if you think about it, when you build a coach house in your backyard, the beautiful thing about it is you don't have to buy another lot. I live in Arlington Woods. I don't know if you guys know Arlington Woods, but I live in Arlington Woods. Do you know what a lot costs, Alain, in Arlington Woods? Not just an ordinary lot in our neighborhood.
500.
Wow, that's a really good guess. I had no idea. But what happened was we bought this house that I'm in here now in September of 2018. And 5 days after we bought it, it got whacked by a tornado. And, the old folks that I bought, I just had this image in my mind of the old folks, like I'm old, but they were really old, that I bought it from, dancing around in their condo, high-fiving each other, that they sold this house and 5 days later got whacked by a tornado. So we were going to do some renovations anyway, but it took us, we almost lost the house. It was really quite catastrophic. The reason I tell you that story is that there were 41 homes destroyed in this neighborhood. Ours wasn't, it was severely damaged, but I did manage to fix it. But there were 41 homes that were destroyed. So there were all of a sudden 41 lots available in Arlington Woods, and the prices were I thought they were going to be $300,000 or $400,000. It turned out to be $450,000, $550,000, $600,000, and $650,000 for a vacant lot. So if you own a property in Arlington Woods, and we have a big property here, and we're going to put a coach house in our backyard, you know, imagine having to spend $500,000 or $600,000 to buy a lot before you build a coach house. Well, it makes no sense. So what Mr. Ford was saying, I talked to the Premier and I talked to some of his people in the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, and I said, if you're serious about doing something for affordable housing, let people, because they're going to do it anyway, let people have an apartment in their main house and a coach house. What's the deal? And they said, I won't tell you what they said because it wasn't very polite. You know, they were just in private company, private conversation, but they basically said, hell's yeah, but something else first. And so they brought the bill in and it's passed, and every township, town, city, municipality, county is required to bring their bylaws into conformity with the provincial policy statement, okay? And as I said, when you go into, many of these places, they don't know their own they don't know their own bylaws, and they don't know the building code very well either. So unfortunately, that is just the reality we face. But you will know after this exactly what it is. So Yvonne, you send me the email, everybody gets a copy of the bill, all right? And don't take any BS from anybody on that. Okay? All right, good. All right, let's keep going. So anyway, look, I want to show you the economics of this. So the economics of this Henry Farm Drive property, this was done, I think, a couple of years ago at least, and it shows the fair market value of this particular property at $598, and it has just gone crazy. The last appraisal for this property, this is it's a modest little property, was like $770,000 for a little building. Imagine what it will be worth after I build a coach house in the backyard. I don't know, well over $1 million. And it is now producing, or at least 2 years ago, was producing a cap rate of about 7.4%, which is pretty good. But I suspect if I looked at it today, it would be quite a bit higher because the numbers have just gone crazy. Rents have gone way up, and values have just, in Ottawa, I can't really explain it, have just gone crazy. All right, so this is what I wanted to show you. This is what I did last weekend, all right? I bought a number of buildings I'll stop sharing one more time. I bought a number of buildings in Belleville, Ontario. So at the beginning of the pandemic, I guess it would have been February last year, hundreds of my clients reached out to me, hundreds of them. I mean, I just got hundreds of emails in February and March. What the heck is going on? What's going to happen? What are the implications of the pandemic? And I honestly answered, I'm not sure. I have to think about it. I'll come out with some recommendations. And James, you know, I write a private newsletter for my clients called Burning Rock Solutions. But the rest of you guys would know that. So I produce, just for my clients, my private clients, I produce a newsletter monthly called Burning Rock Solutions. Burning Rock Solutions, think my last name, Fire, Stone, Burning Rock. That's it. So Burning Rock Solutions. And I said, look, I will give it very careful consideration. I will get back to you with some recommendations. And one of the recommendations I made was that I thought even before the pandemic, this work from home thing was the real deal. And I said, what was really, really, really strong, this work from home thing, is going to get much stronger. And I said, the other thing that I'm seeing, even before the pandemic, is that hundreds of thousands, in fact, millions of people are developing side gigs and side hustles. All of us on this call have some kind of a side hustle. You know, I know James is a realtor, and his side hustle is he's got 21 doors to look after. Me, I've got 352. Plus, quite an active real estate practice, as a real estate broker. And my side hustle is coaching. I like coaching, I think I'm good at it, but you can make your own mind up on that. And so But millions of people, I thought, even before the pandemic, were going in that direction. And then the pandemic hit, and 8 million Canadians were on the CERB benefit. And I think 30 or 40 million Americans lost their jobs. All of a sudden, this workshop idea, the storage idea, all of this, the work from home idea, it just exploded. So I think it was March of last year in one of my Burning Rock Solutions reports, I said, here's what I think is going to happen. I think small towns within an hour or two of larger centers, Toronto, San Francisco, Boston, Seattle, I think they're going to boom. Here's what's going to happen. In fact, I have clients, two tech clients who were working in Silicon Valley, actually in San Francisco, making really good salaries. But both of them, it just happened to be, both of them decided to move from San Francisco to Boise, Idaho. They just like, they like salmon fishing. So there's good fishing in Idaho. I've been there. A good whitewater rafting too, by the way. So they got permission from their companies to move from San Francisco to Boise. They can make San Francisco salaries and live in Boise, Idaho. How about that? I mean, that's really good. It's an amazing change in their personal financial well-being. They were young men. They wanted to get married. They wanted to have families. But try having a family, a big family like I have in San Francisco. It's really incredibly expensive, maybe even cost prohibitive, even for people making a good salary. So I started buying up buildings in Belleville. I bought a few. And the reason for that is I have this idea, at least a year ago, had this idea that several 100,000 people would probably head out of Toronto immediately. And it turned out to be a very good prediction. About 40% of the rich dudes in Manhattan, 40%, think about that, 40% of the rich dudes in Manhattan have left. They have these 20 million, 30, 50, $80 million condos. But you can see in a pandemic, if you're on the 60th floor and you want a liter of milk, you could die going down 60 floors in the elevator. People cough on you, you get sick. And when people are 70, I'm almost 70, when people are 70 and they get COVID and they go in the hospital, 23% of them die. So if I told any of you guys on this call that every time you got in your car, you had a 23% chance of dying, you'd park that sucker. You'd never drive anywhere. So 40% of the rich dudes went to Long Island, or they went to Florida, wherever they left. And I said, this is going to happen everywhere. So I started buying up properties in Belleville, and I bought another one on the weekend, I think it was Saturday or Sunday. Every day seems to be the same. So I'm going to show you this property in Belleville that I bought. And I think we're running low on time here, so I don't want to overstay my welcome. We've got another 7 minutes. So Belleville has become a super hot market, partly in part because I've been buying in this area. You may not know this, but I'm a pretty high profile guy. And when I started buying properties in Belleville, the local radio station and the local newspaper and the mayor and everybody else wanted to interview me. I did not want to do that, because if people know I'm investing in a marketplace, I'm going to create my own competition. But it's a small town. There are no secrets in a small town, so everybody knows. Do you guys know what Liberty Entertainment is? Liberty Entertainment is a huge entertainment company based in Miami. They have offices in Miami and in Toronto, and they're buying in Belleville now. And I can't tell you for sure it's because of me, but I suspect it is, because I'm a high profile guy. I'm an investor in Belleville, and I like the town. It's right near wine country. It's right near the Bay of Quinte. It's got a lot going for it. It's got a great economy, and it's a couple of hours from Toronto. So how do you buy a house or an investment property like this one in Belleville, where everybody is, you've got now 20, 30 competing offers? Where even a modest bungalow, one of my clients bought a house in Belleville a couple of weeks ago. I helped him with it. He paid $96,000 over ask for a bungalow that I recommend he not buy, but he and his wife like the trees. So they bought a bungalow, $96,000 over ask, because they like the trees. That's that. But this is the building my wife and I bought last weekend. It's got a 5-bedroom house here in the backyard, it's already got the bones of a coach house. Here it's an old detached garage, but we're going to turn it into a 2-bedroom Airbnb. So it's going to have a bedroom here, its living room here, and we're going to add on here another bedroom. So it'd be a 2-bedroom Airbnb, coach house in the backyard. This is the side view of it. So it has a 5-bedroom home here, and it's a back-to-back situation. So, you know, double side by side, this is back-to-back. So it's got a house here, and it's got another home here. So it's got a 2-bedroom home here. It shows 4 bedrooms here, but it's actually 5. I just miscalculated, and it's got this back here. You notice I said here on this, how to get a free home. I'll explain what I mean by that in a second. All right. Also, the other thing, especially for you, as you brought it up, this one has an R4 zone. So I got no worries about being in an R1 and maybe having to, you know, sort of, you know, maybe cut a few corners as far as the bylaw is concerned. But the R4 gives me all the rights I need to do whatever animations pretty much I would want. So I bought this property for $485,500, which is $15,000 under asking price. Actually, probably $14,000 under asking price, when everything else was going at least $96,000 over ask. How in the world could I buy a house in what has become a hot market, partly because of my activity there, 3 blocks from the Bay of Quinte? I like to sail. It's a beautiful bay. 15-minute walk to our buildings downtown, stone's throw from other services, close to a hospital. Why did I get it so cheap? And I'll tell you why. It's because of my realtor. I work with a number of realtors who are buyer reps for me. I've got 3 here in Ottawa and 1 in Toronto. So I don't run a very big group. You know, at my age, I don't want a lot of you know, people, but I have 4 people who work very closely with me on a daily basis. And my Toronto-based realtor is really good. His name is Viraj Tanna. And Viraj can smoke out information way better than I can. He's like a super spy. He should be like a CISA spy, right? A secret agent. He talked to the sellers with their agent, and it wasn't very long before he figured out what was motivating. The sellers are 2 investors who own this building and have owned it for a long time, and they have a tenant in the main house and a tenant in the back-to-back double that they become friends with. They pay very low rents. I think that the house in the back is $800 a month, and the one in the front, I don't think it's much more. I think it's like $1,200. Imagine a 5-bedroom house for $1,200. They're getting a really good deal, obviously. So Viraj told me, he said, Bruce, if we go in under ask, because it's an old building and needs lots of work, there's only two bidders, a family, very nice family from Toronto, and us. And if we go 15,000 under ask, but we say we're willing to accept the tenants, don't want vacant possession, I think you're going to get it. So we as realtors, I'm not particularly good at it, but Viraj is very good at it. My other guys here in Ottawa are really good at it too, is to find out what motivates the seller and you know, and use that. So we did. So we went in at 485.5 with a short irrevocable, like we put it in, I think on, I don't know, Saturday night at 5 and the irrevocable Sunday at 3, because we didn't want him to shop the offer around. And sure enough, they accepted it, which is, God bless them. Now, why is this? Sorry, did somebody have a question?
No conditions.
We had a financing condition on it. I put that in there intentionally, and I'll tell you why, Yvonne. We didn't really need it, conditions, because when we did, I'm glad you asked that question, because when we went into the building, you know, I'm a civil engineer. I do my own building inspections, and I have a project manager, and I have you know, constructors who work for me. They're on my payroll, and so we go in with the whole group, and we had the paperwork prepared in advance. The only thing we had to do was put in, but I put in a financing condition, and I don't really need it, I'll be honest with you, but I put it in there simply because I want the sellers to think that they're working hard for it and we're working hard for it too. I didn't want to give them the impression that, you know, some big shooter from Toronto or Ottawa is coming along and has all the money in the world. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was a strategic condition, but no other condition, no building inspection condition. Because I mean, you know, it's a building built in 1898. You can imagine it needs some tender loving care because these investors have put no money into this thing forever. In fact, I think there should be a jail sentence for building owners who you know, who kind of basically abandon their property like this. But anyway, I'm kidding about the jail sentence, but I certainly, the people I coach, they don't allow any deferred maintenance to build up. They do not, right? It's the Ferrari story, right? So anyway, so I put that condition in there for strategic reasons and just to make them think, oh, well, we're struggling to come up with our last dollar. Okay, so the reason it's a free home is, you know, maybe someday I'll get to retire. I mean, who knows? Like I said, I'll be 70 later this year. And if I do, I might retire at Belleville. It's a cute little town. I like to sail. I have a boat, and it has a little better weather than Ottawa. You know, Ottawa is always winter, seems to me. So we at some point we might ask the tenant to leave, you know, in the big house, but we'll keep the 2-bedroom house, you know, as a rental, because I believe even your principal residence should, you know, be an asset rather than a liability. So if you think about it, Dawn and I, my wife Dawn and I, can live in the front, 5-bedroom home, plenty of room for our children to visit and our grandchildren. We can have a nice 2-bedroom home in the back, and we can have this beautiful Airbnb unit. It'll be absolutely stunning when we finish it in the back. Now, I'm almost done it. What do you think a 2-bedroom Airbnb goes for in Belleville during the summer? Anybody want to guess?
$350 a night.
That's a much better guess. I mean, you know, I didn't know when I started investing in Belleville a year ago. I found out, but I didn't know when you know, I thought, oh, $165 a night, that'd be great. In the wintertime, about $225 to $250 a night. In the summertime, $400 a night. And they're completely booked. Like the only days you have vacant, Charles, are the changeover days when you need time to clean and disinfect it, et cetera, et cetera. So like I said, it's a 15-minute walk to downtown. It's a 3 or 4 minute walk to the marina. I have a beautiful boat there. I have kayaks and everything else, you know. So imagine $400 a night, 25 nights a month. I mean, what is that? That's like, is that, no, I think that's more. I think it's $10,000 a month.
Yeah.
So you have to understand too, that this PAAN stuff, this property animation stuff and analysis stuff that I did for myself, I have spreadsheets on this, trust me on this. I mean, I worked it all out on the Friday, Saturday when we were looking at this place. I was ready to go Saturday. And if you think about it, from the investors who don't know diddly squat about being investors in real estate, why didn't they put a 2-bedroom Airbnb in the back and make $8,000 or $10,000 a month in the summer and $3,000 or $4,000 a month in the winter? Like, why not? It's because they don't know that. So when they look at this property, they are losing money on it. When you're renting a house for $800 a month and a 5-bedroom house for $2,000 a month, they're losing money on it. And they're going, this is a stupid investment. But you guys now know it's a fantastic investment, but they just don't understand it. So if these were your clients and you did a PAAN report for them, and on something like this, they should pay you $1,500 plus HST for your work. They should. It'll add to your income. And you teach them how to make, and then all of a sudden they're making $8,000 or $10,000 a month just from the backyard, and they can keep their friends in the building for almost no money. All of a sudden, this building is going to be worth $1.2 million, $1.3 million, or whatever, and they're going to think you walk on water. There was only one person who walked on water. They're going to think you're great, and now they're making real money. They're going to say, you know, Kim, can you help me out buy more property? And you're going to say yes. So you could turn a seller into a buyer, and you could turn a seller into a buyer and a lifetime client, and you could help them buy 10 more like this because you know something about property animation. So you can apply it for yourself, but you can apply it for your clients, and your clients all of a sudden will grow. Imagine if you had one crazy mad dentist who's a wonderful, smart guy who buys 307 properties for you. I had 2 realtors work for him for 5.5 years. He was their only client. They were making like 8, 10, 12 offers a month and getting, 5 or 6 accepted for 5.5 years. And then I said to my client, you got to stop buying now. He's getting older, right? I said, your portfolio of 307 buildings, that's enough. And I said to my buyer agents, well, we'll find other work for you to do, right? So that's how you can really explode your practice. If you apply it to yourself, but you help other people do it. I don't know if it made any sense, but that's the lecture for today. All right, any comments before we go? Anybody want to add anything?
Sure.
Ivan, you want to say something?
No, I'm still working on that coach house, or trying to maybe not do a coach house, but sever a 2-acre lot off my 5-acre, so that maybe I could build a house.
No doubt that might make sense. Anyway, for those of you who didn't do the first assignment, they're easy assignments, Kim, I'm looking at you. Could you at least consider doing, just so I get to know you a little bit better? Because I mean, part of this is to get to know you guys a little bit better. Maybe I could help. I don't think Hussein, you did it. So if you don't mind, do the assignments. Now, one other thing I'd like you guys to think about, this is assignment number 4, is I'd like you to, in the next month, I'd like you to email me 1 or 2 burning questions. Something, I'd really like to hear Bruce talk about something, because I'm here for you. Royal LePage is paying me to be here, whether there's 2 of you, or there's 10 of you, or there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, 6 of you, or 7. I'm happy either way. I don't care. I said to James yesterday, if you're the only person who shows up, that's okay with me. The more, the better, though. So do me a favor, though. Please do the first 3 assignments. They're very simple. And the 4th one is come up with at least 1 question, burning question. I really want Bruce to, because then the lectures get a little bit more relevant to you. And so the next lecture, I'll try and get to each one of your questions. 1 or 2, not 10. I don't want 10 questions, but 1 or 2. Okay, guys? All right. We all doing this. Alana, Steph. Okay. Hussein, you too. And I really hope you've enjoyed today. I did as well. Okay, Hussein says he's on it. You guys are great. Thank you for doing this.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce.
Bye, guys.